Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's John Register back with Change Mindset Warriors. We are here back in studio. Can you believe it? Another week has gone by, and we have another exciting, amazing, phenomenal guest in the room. It's all about Olympians this month. We've had Ruben was on a couple of weeks ago, and so we have another great guest, another Olympian, to get the insights on what is coming up, what is happening in the Olympic world as we get ready to watch it all on NBC coming up really soon. You are on this show, and what's it about? Well, I'm John Register. I'm your host. I'm an international speaker, a change mindset warrior, and I work with business professionals to help them hurdle adversity, amputate fear, embrace a new normal mindset to win the medals that are in their lives. And I get a chance to introduce you to amazing guests who have just overcome those obstacles in their lives and are now teaching it back to others. If you want to visit me, visit my website at johnregister.com. We can get the party started there. All my social media channels are there. And today we have a fantastic guest on, so we're going to tease that up just a little bit. So last week on professional development, I was down in Las Vegas. It was hot, y'all. It was hot. Holy cow! Like 118 in the shade, 105 when I was sitting by the pool and the water was hot. I was boiling. I was cooking. I was like an egg. It was rough. But professional development, I need to get it done. Every year I commit to doing at least one thing that will help you elevate. What is the one thing that you do that helps you elevate? Do you read a book? Do you get around a group of consortiums of friends? Do you have a mastermind program? What is it that you do to elevate yourself, right? And then here's a fail. Here's a fail. I was opening up the bridge. We have a new bridge that goes from the United States Olympic and Paralympic Museum across the railroad tracks over to America the Beautiful Park. And I was asked to be the MC of the program. And of course, I love being the MC of the programs. We got everybody on board. We have all these, big wigs on the stage. And I just get a chance to introduce. I sit down, introduce, sit down, introduce, sit down. And I try to make it a little bit fun. So one of the things I thought would be cool was I know this poem called The Bridge Builder. And it's by William Drimgold. I've done it thousands of times. And I get up there to start the Bridge Builder poem because I think it's going to be a great connector, connector for us. And I get to the first line. An old man going along a lone highway came with the evening cold and gray to a chasm that was vast and wide and steep, with waters rolling cold and deep. Gone. Words flew away. There were nowhere to be found. I was like scrambling, trying to figure out what was next. Crash, burn. Oh, it was horrible. It was just not good. When was the time that you failed so significantly, crashed and burned, that you just had to just chalk it up to that and just move on to the next thing? So this we're going to make this, of course, into the podcast. We know we're about to do that, and I just talked to the sound engineer, and I can't wait to do it because this guest that we have on today has so much great insight. I love talking with him. Every time I see him, I just learn, I just glean from him, just kind of sit at his feet because he just has so much wisdom. But before we get into that, I want to let you know that we do have the book 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. That's out in paperback. I think we got it done by the end of next week, so that's going to be great. On Kindle, it went to #1, all stations, all categories. I can't believe it. First attempt at a book ever. Was just amazing. All shows are going to exist in their entirety on YouTube and LinkedIn and on Facebook group. It's not going to be on LinkedIn today because I don't know. LinkedIn just said it didn't want to work today, so can't help you there. So let's get into to meet our guest today. As I think are the folks that are always in, Lynn Keir, Diane Parker, Patrice Ravenscross, and Richard Biddle's always the ones that are always on. I want to just shout you all out. And if you want to shout out, make sure you're watching, tune in, and I want to see your name in the chat box, and I'll make sure I shout you out next week as well. Please share the platform and share it in the chat box. And if you know of a future guest, let me know. I'd like to put them on as well. Okay, so let's meet our guest today. Amazing individual. I have so much respect for him. He is cool under fire. He's like Mr. Scott used to say, God rest his soul, said he's like the coolness on the other side of the pillow. He's cool just like the other side of the pillow. Just an amazing man. He's our gold medalist from the 1996 Olympics in the decathlon, and he's a world record holder for the fastest game of hopscotch. Please welcome the one and only Mr. Dan Obrien. Thank you, Dan, for being on.
It's good to be on. I appreciate it. You saved the best for last. The world record in the game of hopscotch. Wow.
That's where I want to start, actually, because hopscotch, I didn't even know.
Well, it was so this goes clear back to 2008. I was doing some promotional stuff for the Summer Olympics, and Crayola called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we've got this really cool summer fitness program. We'd love for you to take part in it. Help us sell it online. But to kick it off, we'd like for you to attempt the world's fastest game of hopscotch." And so I said, "Oh yeah, I was up for it." And they said, you come to New York and you do the press junket. And when you do a press junket like that, they just put you in front of a camera and you talk to affiliates from all over the country. And I was just talking about the Olympic Games and my experience, but I was kicking it off the following day with this world record attempt in the game of hopscotch. And it's a game certainly we know of that we played it when we were kids or we've seen it. But I went online and I got the dimensions and I drew out my own hopscotch, my own hopscotch board in the garage. And you toss the stone out to one, you hopscotch out, you grab it and bring it back in. And I practiced quite a while. And I think at the time the world record was 122. Yeah, 122.3, I think it was. And I wasn't even getting close to it. And, I probably practiced for a month, got on a plane, went to New York, getting ready to do this. And the night before, I said to the marketing people, I said, I hope you guys aren't counting on me getting this world record, because I'm 3 or 4 seconds off, even in my good practice runs. And they all looked at me like, "Oh my gosh, if you don't break the record, this whole campaign could come crashing down." And so I did all the press that morning, and then the cameras were on me, and I played hopscotch by myself. It was cool. They brought in a whole bunch of kids, 200-300 kids, and they at Chelsea Piers in New York, they all built their own hopscotch courses, and we're tossing stones and having a great time. And then it came time to try for the world record, and I tried and tried and tried, and I'll bet I just went for 30-40 minutes straight of just game after game after game. And we were outside and it started sprinkling a little bit. And so the rain caused my stone to not bounce and skip as much. It just kind of I was able to throw it into the boxes. I had a perfect game, hit all my throws on the first try. And, I ended up breaking the world record. And I was just like, wow, this is really something. All the kids mobbed me and we had a great time. But what I didn't realize is the record used to belong to a guy who owned 100 world records. And so when I broke the record, it took him off of his 100 list. And so just a few months later, he went back and got the record. So I was the world record holder in hopscotch for, 60 days, maybe at the most. So, but, I broke a couple world records in my day in track. So it's just like, I can say I'm a world record holder in something other than track and field.
Absolutely. So I got there are 2 questions. Is it going to be an Olympic sport? I guess that's the first one. Hopscotch Olympic sport.
I really doubt it. But it's a fun game. But by the time I'll tell you, it was hard work too. By the time I broke that record, I was 40 minutes in. I was just dripping sweat. So it was a good workout.
But yes, you have broken records, and one of the things that on that topic is. The first ever record I ever broke, right, was a long jump record at Oak Park Air Force High School. It stood for, I think, like 33-year-old record, I think it was. And the gentleman who actually had the record, he wrote me a beautiful note. I wish I would have saved it and framed it. I could figure out where it is. I remember his name, Ken Handy. And Ken Handy said, "Fantastic job, young man. Awesome job. Wonderful accomplishment. Always remember that records are meant to be broken."
Well, and that's absolutely true. But I'll tell you, when you hold a decathlon world record, or let's say you hold a 100-meter world record, it's hard to let those records go.
Yeah.
They become a part of you. Obviously you're getting marketing opportunities. People want to talk to you at big meets. And, I saw my world record go from overseas. So it didn't seem like it affected me that much. But at the 2012 Olympic trials, I saw my American record go, which stood for 20 years. And so, that record was pretty stout, but, Trey Hardy and Brian Clay weren't able to beat it, but Ashton Eaton did. And I was on hand. And so I stood near my Olympic coach who was officiating at the time. And he said, we're going to sit here and just watch this record go down together. And not only did the American record go, the world record went as well. And there's an amount of humility that takes place, when your record gets broken, because that's what you realize at that time. And I remember a movie that I watched about a gambling movie, and one of the lines in the gambling movie was "Hold on tightly, let go lightly." And I'll never forget that. It's just
Wow.
like, yeah, we hold on to things pretty tightly, but when it's time to let them go, you have to let them go easily.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that, when you're in your business profession now, is that like an acumen that you can take forward to companies, clients when you're talking with them?
I think so. And what's interesting to me is, and it's the sport of track and field, and certainly any professional sport. There's so many things that you do to be good at your sport. It's the most important thing while you're doing it. Okay. When I was the best in the world, track and field training, it was the most important thing in the world. And as you get a little bit older, those things change. Certainly, you've got family, and whether you're married, you got kids and things like that. Those become the most important things. And what you realize in business, a lot of times it's much easier to let those things go, because there's always another opportunity down the road. There's always another opportunity the following day. And there's no definites. Like in the sport of track and field, once that competition's over, it's over. You can't really go back and do anything. You get another opportunity. But I tend to be a little bit more soft-hearted, certainly in my business, in my professional world. And you have to be. There was one way that I did it, and my coach and I said, we're going to do it this way, and we did it that way. But in business, it's like, there's 10 ways, there's 12 ways, and it's up to us to figure out, when one way doesn't work, how do we figure out another path?
I think that lends itself to the event, right? Because I'd love for you to explain to the audience, what your event is, because it's not a very easy event. 10 events over the course of 2 days, and talk a little bit about, not only from the standpoint of what the event is and the gruelingness of how hard it is, but also the camaraderie that's shared amongst the athletes.
Well, the decathlon is one of the most unique events on the Olympic schedule. It's 10 events over 2 days, and because the amount of time that you spend on the field, you get to know your competitors really well. And some of the most memorable moments I had at the Olympic Games or World Championships was getting an opportunity to communicate with guys from other countries that you couldn't even speak their language. I competed against some Russian guys, Estonians, Ukrainian. They don't speak any English, or they didn't. Back then, not a lot of them spoke much English at all. And so you communicate through hand gestures and numbers, and that's where I had to learn my metrics, was in the sport of track and field. If I didn't know my metrics, I wouldn't have been able to communicate with all these international guys. So it's such a unique experience. But because of the amount of time you're out there, day one, day two, by the time you cross that finish line, you feel like you're brothers. You feel like you've been through battle together, and whether you finish in first place or 10th place or 20th place, you've accomplished something together, and that really rings true. So at the conclusion of the heptathlon, the conclusion of the decathlon, at any major championship, everybody takes a lap of honor. It's not called the victory lap; it's called a lap of honor, and you do it with the brothers and sisters that you battled with over the 2 days. And so the decathlon on the first day is the 100 meters, long jump, shot put, high jump, and the 400 meters. And then the second day is the high hurdles, discus, pole vault, javelin, and the 1500 meters. And it was not an event that was my favorite. It was not my first choice. I think like a lot of track and field youngsters, we grew up looking at Carl Lewis and saying, that's what I want to be. And it wasn't until, I got into my early 20s did I realize that I can't be that. I can't be the Carl Lewis, but I got a chance to meet and spend time with Jackie Joyner-Kersee. And I thought, you know what? I can be a multi-event athlete. I can be a very good multi-event athlete who specializes in a couple of events. And I remember talking to Jackie, she and her husband, Bob Kersee, they really encouraged me to kind of go that route. And once I committed and made up my mind that the decathlon was going to be the event for me, it was a very short turnaround before I became very relevant internationally. 3 years, as a matter of fact, I won my first world title after making that commitment.
So what was the event that you were really focused in on? Was it the dashes, or was it the hurdles? Which one was it?
Well, just, growing up, I was always the fastest kid in school.
Mm.
And, I didn't care whether it's fifth grade, sixth grade. I was just beating kids that were older than I was. I won a state championship, 2 state championships, both in the hurdles and the 100 meters. But I would say, my specialty events were the sprinting events. I was an outstanding 100-meter guy, but the hurdles and long jump, I had some really good wins against world-class guys in hurdle races. I was always in finals and big meets. I was a 26-foot long jumper, and so that can only get you so far when you got guys like Joe Green and Carl Lewis jumping 28 feet.
Right, right. That's fascinating, because a lot of times we'll hear the term, jack of all trades, master of none, but yet in this event, that's the one event where you want to be really good across the board in all of them. You want to have, maybe you have your events, a couple, 3 stand out for you, but you really want to begin to focus in on some of the weaker areas to bring them up so you can score higher points.
Well, and I think that's the misconception in the event, the decathlon or the heptathlon for that matter, is that when coaches see young athletes and they're not really great at anything, they tend to push them into what could be the most difficult event and say, hey, I'm going to make a decathlete out of you. It's like, okay, well, he was just okay at 3 or 4 things. Now he's just okay at those 3 or 4 things and really bad at the other ones.
Yeah.
No, the decathlon and the heptathlon, you have to be good in everything. And that's what I enjoyed about it. It was solving a puzzle. It was juggling, trying to figure out how to juggle 10 balls at the same time. It was a exercise in time management, resources. How much time did you spend in the training room? And so it was always kind of just a puzzle that you needed to solve. And, I think once you get the right training system, once you find the place that's right for you and you lock in and you spend that time training, then you see those results. People who have trouble in the event bounce around from coach to coach, don't have a real stable, I think, off the track schedule. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that, is really important in the multi events is having that stability, that day in, day out routine that you can always go to. And I mean, I got into training blocks where I didn't know what day of the week it was. I just knew that it was the first day of a training block, or I got tomorrow off, or I was on a rest day. So that's how, kind of focused I was. It's like, it didn't matter whether it was a Saturday or a Sunday. We took our rest when the body said to.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because a lot of folks are, just go, and they don't take the time off. So I want to kind of go back to something you said a little earlier around commitments. And that is, you said when you committed to the sport, when you began to really embrace that. A, what does that commitment mean for you when you say you're going to switch on to something? And then B, the question is, I tend to tell my audiences, the jump is your jump. You have to, whatever the jump is, you got to commit to it. No, only you can do that jump. So talk to, on the B side, how other individuals can make that jump and those commitments in their lives.
Well, and John, one of the things that I see a lot is far too often we want success on our own terms. We want to give a certain amount of effort. We want to work so hard, and we want success from that. And in the sport of track and field, in sports in general, oftentimes it takes more than your best. It takes you figuring out how good you are and going, how hard you're willing to work, and you go beyond that. Okay. And so I will say that I was a committed athlete in college. I did exactly what the coach told me to. And then my first 2 years post-collegiate athletics as well, I did exactly what my coach required of me. But it wasn't until I failed, and we'll certainly get a chance to talk about that later, but it wasn't until I failed that I took personal responsibility for all my successes and failures. And I was able to realize and understand that I was only really committing about 85, 86% of my time, my resources.
Wow.
Was I sacrificing the things that I needed to? And I found all kinds of percentage points that I could just up my game. And I absolutely did. And, one thing that what I just said right there is, taking personal responsibility for your successes and failures. And far too often we look at the coach, far too often we look at the individuals around us and say, well, if I just had been coached a little bit better, if I just had a little bit better program. And, there comes a time when you say, look, it's up to me now. Nobody else can get the job done except for myself. Now I'm responsible. I'm responsible for the time in the training room. I'm responsible for the amount of sleep that I get, the things I put in my body. And so that's when everything started to certainly change for me. And I had a coach who really encouraged that maturity as I got into the later years of the sport of track and field. Because when I was a young athlete, I just did what I was told. I was a great soldier, but there was a time when I had to do it without the coach, and I had to make up my mind to be successful.
That's worth its weight in gold right there for sure. And I hope that the folks that are listening in, you just caught that it is on you. And we often talk about how other people will believe for you what you can or cannot do, which is often based on what they believe they could or could not do if they were in your situation. So we listen to those voices, we listen to what people believe for us instead of really believing that for ourselves and then committing to it and having from the commitment, owning that decision. So you kind of went there. So I was going to go a different direction, but I want to go back into to 19, the Barcelona team, I think it was, and then it was a great campaign thing by Reebok. You and your competitor Dave. And then you all have this campaign that's going on, and you're projected to win the decathlon for the Olympic trials. And in our country, for those that don't know, that everybody that makes the Olympic standard qualifies for the Olympic trials has made the Olympic standard for most events.
Sure.
So therefore, you can be on somebody's team pretty much. But in the U.S., you got to be top three, and when you're top three, you are the one selected for the A list that goes to the games. So walk us through what happened in that campaign, and then link that to the owning it that I saw you just so brilliantly master with masterful after that happened.
Well, I was very fortunate. I won my first world title in 1991, and based on winning that world title, and then Dave Johnson, who was the best U.S. decathlete years prior to that, we got an opportunity to both be sponsored by the same shoe company, Reebok. And in 1992, as people were gearing up for the 92 Olympics, Reebok came to both of us and said, we'd like to take two unknown guys in an unknown event and break into a market which was unknown for Reebok, and that was the running shoe industry. The running and training. Reebok was probably known best at that time for casual shoes and shoes that nurses wore, and they were just that white, clean white, but they wanted to get in the running industry, and they had this idea. And so the guy who came up with the Dan and Dave commercials was the same guy who developed the Energizer Rabbit commercials, and he was just a brilliant guy, but he came up with Dan and Dave. And so Dave and I, we said, we would love to do this, but we told Reebok when they asked us, they said, do you guys have any reservations? And we both said, well, look, the reservation is we both have to qualify. We're not on the team automatically. I've got the best score in the world. Dave's got the third best score and the second best score in the world. But that doesn't mean we're on the team. We still have to go to the Olympic trials. And Reebok said, we're confident you guys will make it. And Dave and I certainly knew that this was a risk and that, anything could happen. You could get injured. You might not make it to the trials even.
Right.
So we embarked on the quest of filming the commercials, and we had a great time. I learned a lot about the industry, and when you got 5 a.m. calls, day after day after day, you start thinking, this isn't so fun. The commercial world and TV and movies, it's not so fun.
It's not so fun.
Yeah, you stay out till 11 or 12 at night, and they want to come pick you up at 5 in the morning. And but we got to really experience, I would say, what it's like to be a mainstream athlete. Something that Devin Booker in Phoenix right now would go through. But Dave and I, we did the commercials, and literally they showed the commercials on Super Bowl Sunday. We were celebrities overnight. And a lot of people in the town, I was living in Moscow, Idaho, a lot of people in the town knew who I was. But it went from a lot of people knowing me to everybody now because of the commercials. Oh yeah. But Dave and I, we sat courtside at the Laker game, just, get some PR for the campaign. We signed autographs at, sporting goods stores, but I joke about it, and I talk to young athletes. I said, we were so famous, we were on the Arsenio Hall show. And kids nowadays go, who? It's like, man, Arsenio Hall, the dog pound. And it was a great time. And there were times I would honestly say that, when we were shooting the commercials, though, Dave and I would look at each other and just kind of go, wow, this was another afternoon that we didn't get to train.
Yeah.
We'd always try to figure out how to get a lift in and how to get some kind of a workout. But when they're changing lights and locations, it seems that wasn't for us. We wanted to be out there training. But I had some injuries in the 1992 season. I had a stress fracture in my lower left leg. So the last 6-8 weeks of the season leading into the Olympic trials, I didn't get a chance to run as much as I would have liked to. I did a lot of pool workouts, and I tried to show up healthy to the trials. And the trials were in New Orleans in July, believe it or not. Wow.
I was there.
Yeah. But you were used to that Arkansas weather. So
Absolutely.
Nothing like New Orleans. So you get off the plane in New Orleans and you're 5 minutes like, okay, I'm ready for a new shirt here, and it was just hot and steamy. And, I felt good. I showed up healthy. My leg was not hurting. I maybe wasn't in the top shape, in the highest fitness that I'd ever been in my career, but and half the battle in decathlon is just showing up to the line healthy.
Yeah.
And so I had a good first day. I led the competition, had a good first day. But what was interesting is even before the whole thing started, I showed up at the stadium, and you walk into the stadium and everybody is wearing a white T-shirt that either said Dan or Dave. And it looked like Reebok had just handed T-shirts out to everybody that walked in.
Yeah.
And so at that point we realized it's bigger than the decathlon. It just took a life of its own, this DanDave campaign. And, we felt a little bit of the pressure, but, I didn't feel the pressure till day 2, really. I had a good hurdle race. I threw the discus, and then I got to the pole vault. And I would say that I was a good pole vaulter, a solid above average pole vaulter. And my coaches and I, we had a plan. We stuck to that plan. We came in at the designated height that we had selected, and I had 3 misses. And to describe it is a little surreal because, my first trip down the runway is, they call your name, strip your sweats off, they call your name, you're a little bit jittery and nervous anyways. So it wasn't a great attempt. And then my second attempt, I just barely missed it. And so I'm down to a third attempt. And I don't even think at the time I realized the enormity. And it's only when you look over in the stands, everybody stops what they're doing. And now everybody's staring right there. Third attempt, opening bar. And when I came down the runway and I planted the pole and I just went up, didn't have a chance at it, at that point you realize, wow, something is terribly, terribly wrong. You think that your normal instincts will take over, you run down, you plant the pole, you'll go over. And it wasn't until way later that I really dissected it, looked at it, and got a chance to see what went wrong. But at that moment, I was absolutely just, gut punched. The wind knocked out of me. I didn't know what to do. I was in a daze. I think somebody else picked up my pole and put it away for me. I went over and Dave gave me a hug, and it was like, wow, my Olympic dreams have been just shattered in a matter of half an hour. How do I react to this? And luckily, I had a great support group. Luckily, my coaches had a plan for me. And the plan went into effect immediately. And had it been up to me, I know height in the pole vault. The best I can finish now is 9th, 10th, 11th place, even with 2 good events, but I get 0 points for the event. And, I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm done for the summer. But my coaches came and found me on the practice track, and they took me up to the skyboxes, like the Visa skyboxes. My mother was up there, and, I had a good cry. And once I did that, I felt much better. And my coaches sat me down and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get back out there. We're going to throw the javelin. We're going to run the 1500, and we're going to congratulate those guys who made the Olympic team. And it was the best thing I could have ever done, is just follow that instruction, and having these guys help me through it. And I went out there and I threw a personal best in the javelin, and I ran an easy 440 in the 1500, and, said congratulations to Dave Johnson and Rob Muzio and Eric Long. And it hurt, of course, but it gained a lot of favor, I think, just from a media standpoint. But it was the right thing to do, and it helped me kind of heal from it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It helped me move on, and I think maybe the hardest thing about failing at that level, and when you talk about fails, it was an epic fail. Even today, sometimes I'll, be watching ESPN and say, coming up next, the 10 biggest, the 10 biggest fails in sports. And, there's Dan and Dave, number 7, so, but I went home, and one of the most difficult things was dealing with dealing with the hurt of others. My family was devastated. My dad thought that somebody had died. It's just like, easy. It's track, man. And I was a young athlete at the time. But I'll never forget, my community rallied around me. I landed at an airport in Moscow, Pullman, and 100 people showed up and hugged me. And it was like, wow, that people still really, people care about me. And I was able to get over it and move on. And so I was a little perplexed with not making the team, but I'll tell you, it affected me greatly. But it was just an incredible learning experience. I would dream that I got the call. Yeah, the Olympic Committee called, and they need the alternate. And it's like, okay, I'm on the team, and then I'd wake up and go, oh, I'm not on the team.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time I was dating a girl who was high jumping, and she made the Olympic team. And so it was like, oh, it was pretty depressing. But I got through it. And I found myself at the Olympic Games broadcasting. I got a chance to go to Barcelona. I got a chance to watch and get the experience. But during that time, I see Kevin Young break the world record in the 400-meter hurdles. Derek Redmond, from Great Britain, pulls his hamstring in the semifinals of the 400 meters, and he limps around the track. And I mean, it was moments like that just made me believe in the Olympic spirit. And I was so inspired at the Olympic Games. I committed to doing another decathlon later that summer. There was the Frenchman, they put on a fantastic decathlon called Decastar. And the guy asked me, he said, Dan, will you do Decastar? Come to Decastar. It's in September. And I just don't know even where it came from. I said, I'll not only come to Decastar, I'll break the world record. And oh, mon Dieu, he went crazy, and so the hype started. And literally, I went from I'm gonna just relax this summer to another goal, another really relevant goal for me. And the pressure was on. And I think because I think because of the failure in '92, I was able to always now how to deal with that pressure. Okay, I failed under the pressure one time, but what I realized through my career is that, I can come through in pressure, and I need to feel nervous and stressed to get maybe my best result. So, I mean, it was a wild experience. Dan and Dave, took a hit. Reebok got criticized for what they did, but when you look at it, people remember Dan and Dave. Reebok ultimately got into the running shoe market. I ran for them for a couple more years, and then I was a Nike athlete after that. But, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Sure.
It might be difficult to talk about it had I not won in '96, but I learned so much from that fail, more than all of my other successes put together.
Yeah, I think that, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's a beautiful story. And as a storyteller myself, that is one of those stories that it pulls people in. It just draws folks, because all the time we just really want to talk about our successes, most people, instead of talking about the journey of what makes us get to our successes. So when I think of amazing individuals, the people that I'm attracted to, right, are folks like yourself who will take what we call epic fail. I don't think it's really epic fail, but it's just something that happened, and it does happen, and you knew the risk kind of going into it, but taking that moment and then coming back and breaking the world record in France, coming back right after that. And it's like, never met her, but Kenny Harrison, right? She doesn't make the hurdles last go around, then this year, she's determined to make it, right? But she sets the world record right after. She doesn't make the Olympic team, so she's the fastest one in the world that's not going to the Olympics. They're like, what happened there? It's just because you got to be that on that day, and that's the beauty of the sport. And I think that says a mound for how we show up on the days that we show up. I guess I know we're coming at the time, but I wanted to ask you, and I want to get into a flash round too. The athletes went through a real hard challenge over COVID, right? So we talked about a little bit in pre-show that, we have 4 years of a quad. We call it a quad.
Yep.
For training. For those that are out there don't know, 4 years before in between the games, and then you try to compete in the 4th year. So you're always trying to peak at the right time for that quad in order to make the team, and then kind of come down and then re-peak again for an Olympic Games that comes right after it. This 5th year threw a lot of people off. What were you telling your athletes, or what would you tell, maybe told yourself, when you have this gap year, this 5th year that's coming up, in order to stay sharp, to stay ready, minimize the distractions, the ripples of disturbance, in order to show up like we saw many athletes do, setting personal best by training by themselves during this year of COVID?
Yeah, what was interesting, and I get a chance to talk to a lot of athletes, just not as a coach. I personally didn't get to, coach any multi-events this last Olympic cycle, but I certainly will in the future with this new endeavor that I'm with here in Phoenix. I'll tell you a little bit about it if we get an opportunity. But
Sure.
I announced track and field, and so I got a chance to see a lot of college teams, a lot of college athletes kind of get through the COVID, and then it was the college programs that got started first in 2021. And so, we asked a lot of people, what were the challenges, certainly. And I think as a college team, they were able to stay together. But you hear from people like Pat Henry, the head coach at Texas A&M, and Dennis Shaver, the head coach at LSU. And he said this COVID year was a great opportunity for coaches to coach in a different fashion. They weren't coaching events, they were coaching human beings. They were coaching people how to get over that adversity and how, people struggled. But it was an opportunity for these teams to come together and really support each other. But it was, Coach Henry said, you can tell who took the opportunity to fight through some of the depression, fight through, some of the difficulties, and come out on the other end very successful. And it was amazing how many of the athletes in the SEC and certainly at the national championships who just went to another level. And people wonder, well, why is that? And a lot of people said, I ran harder than I ever had before because I didn't know if I was going to get another opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you see a lot of athletes, longer training blocks. You see American records being broken in distance racing. It's like, how's this happening? It's like, well, when you don't race every week and you only get to race once every 6 or 7 weeks, there's just people are rested. And so you saw a number of things, but it's very challenging. And you heard a lot of the same stories. People were training at parks, and they were, Joe Kovacs said he was, throwing the med ball against the wall under bridges, things like that. And so everybody was really challenged by it. But I've been just so proud of, all the athletes who've been able to come out. One thing that COVID did, though, it extended the careers of some of those athletes who we thought might be finishing, but it also gave some of those young athletes, maybe who are just freshmen, sophomore in college, that extra year. Look at Javon Harrison.
Yes.
Is he the same guy this year as he was last year? No, he's better. So now he goes into Olympic year with one more year of experience under his belt. So very challenging, but I think when athletes look back and we talk about the COVID year, it'll be one of those things that will be a game changer for some of these athletes who are able to deal with it correctly, who are able to learn through it.
We'll talk a little bit now. You did bring it up, so I want to talk about a little about the shift that you have made. You're doing great, fantastic work with the broadcasting. Just very proud of the work and how much insight you bring to the fan base of track and field and athletics for those that are European around the world. But talk a little bit about what you're doing now. That's really kind of got you on fire. That kind of the next press for Dan Obrien.
Well, what was difficult for me when I got done competing was finding something that I was as passionate about as the sport of track and field. I just loved the training. Would wake up every day just excited to just grind it out. And when that was gone, I was a little bit lost. It took me a little while to kind of find my footing, but I found it again, certainly in the sport of track and field. I coached at the collegiate level. I still consult with the U.S. Olympic Committee and Paralympic Committee and USA Track and Field. But for the past 18 years, I've been working with a group of individuals here in the Phoenix area on a large sports park complex. And the idea was to just provide more field space for young athletes here in the Phoenix area. It is the desert like Las Vegas, and you got pockets where you've got great facilities. But a lot of our club kids in Phoenix were having to go to Anaheim and Las Vegas to play in some of the bigger tournaments. And so our idea was to build this large sports park, keep all our club kids home, have those big tournaments. And it has just grown over the years, but it was crawling by. We didn't get it done in the first 5 years. We didn't get it done in the first 10 years. And only last year in COVID were we able to financially secure the project, get it underway. We're building it now, and it's called Legacy Sports USA. And it's in East Mesa, Arizona, and it'll be the largest sports park in the United States, almost double the size of the Wide World of Sports at Wide World of at Disney World.
Park too.
It really is. So 30 soccer fields, 60 volleyball indoor courts. But I'm the executive director of performance training, and then I oversee health, fitness, and wellness. And I can, the only thing I can really say about it is this was a testament of settling in for the long game, just always trusting that, in the end it was going to happen. And if there was a overcoming adversity award, we'd give it to the founder, Randy Miller. I mean, he'd been grinding at this for years.
Wow.
And, I looked at it a lot like as a decathlete who missed the games and had to wait 4 more years. We had on this project, I had to wait 15 years,
Wow.
But here we are, it's built, and I'm excited because we talk about certainly, when we did those programs with the U.S. Olympic Committee and Paralympic, athletes who make the games, what do you want your legacy to be?
Right.
And now with the sports park, Legacy Sports USA, I'm excited to say we're going to give athletes an opportunity, young athletes, kids, families, to leave their legacy in the community. And that's what it's all about. Get these kids on fantastic facilities, be able to impact a lot of people's lives through the world of sports.
Wow, that's brilliant. Love that. And I love the legacy piece. That's one of the things I'm really big on. And I don't care what I'm talking to corporate or the athletes who keep calling me and say, hey, Angie, they just put a microphone in front of my face. What do I say? And I'm always telling my coach always said to me, John, everything's training. Everything is training. So I was always trying to take advantage of, if I get into, an international competition, work with the State Department, take a couple days after that, and, just do a program with them or with the ambassador in whatever country I was in, and just taking advantage of that so I could, just build my my resume, and then leave a legacy and tell other people how to do that while they're there. Just don't jump into a sport, do your event, and then come back home. If you can, stay there and try to get some little bit of work that you can pad your resume with. So thanks for sharing that with us. I got quick real questions I have. These are called my JR's top 10, right? Top 10. We got 10 questions, decathlete. So you're going to answer these 10 questions. They're really easy. You don't have to do a whole bunch of thinking about it. And so we'll just go right down the list. It's no brainer. First thought,
okay.
You don't have to explain it at all. So that's what we're doing, right? So real quick, here we go. Favorite pre-game snack?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Your ritual before a race?
I get all my hellos done before I start my warm-up. Shake everybody's hand, BS, do whatever I need to.
That's good. Who do you study the most in your sport, or did you study, or maybe now it's in the business?
Jackie Joyner Kersey. She was my idol. Yep.
What or who did you never take for granted?
My coach, Rick Sloan, is a former head coach at Washington State University, former decathlete himself.
Plain M&Ms or peanuts?
Peanut.
Good man. Animations or cartoons?
Cartoons. Give me some Bugs Bunny.
Bugs
Looney
Bunny.
Tunes, baby.
Yeah. Let's go. Yes. How do you explain what you do to an 8-year-old?
Very slowly. You relate a lot of things to things that you think they've seen before. Yeah. You talk down to an 8-year-old a little bit. I'll accept that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see what your 80-year-old self now tells yourself today.
Really? You did those workouts and ran all that distance? Like, Yeah, I still, even now, I'm 50. Okay, I got 30 years to go. It's like I still can't believe I finished some of those workouts.
Yeah, whoa, throw it up and everything. Brother-in-law just came on. Hey, Roosevelt Johnson. Tojo's on the house. Thank you, Tojo, for chiming in. All right, who inspires you the most?
I was always inspired by Muhammad Ali,
Mm.
Dr. J, Tony Dorsett. You know, just I used to watch sports on television and just think someday I'm gonna be out there.
Awesome. And who should I have on the show next?
Good question. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you can get a current athlete, Garrett Scantling, who's representing the U.S. in the decathlon. He was an All-American at Georgia. Spent 2 years trying to make it in the NFL. Came back to the sport of track and field, and now has made his first Olympic team and will be representing Team USA in going to Tokyo in the decathlon.
All right, make it happen. Okay, so love you being on the show, my brother. Thank you so much. What great insights you've had. My kind of final question is kind of what's your North Star? So or you can ask me some questions if you want to. I put you on the spot. You can put me on the spot if you want to. We'll definitely answer some questions for you.
Well, I think so. My North Star certainly is seeing this project through. My mother always used to say that I never finished anything I started. But I managed to do the decathlon. But here we are. As we're going to open Legacy within 6 months. We've got 2 more sports parks planned. One in Nashville, one in the Dallas area. And you know what? Just like you, John. We go through our lives and we do things certainly because we got to pay our bills, but rarely ever do people like you or I do anything that we're not passionate about.
Right.
We have the luxury of finding those things and being very passionate about them. And that's what I tell people. Love your job, man. When you find the thing you love, money won't matter, or you'll make plenty.
You will never be poor when you find your.
That's right.
Never.
Well, let me ask you then. So when you look at the Olympic program, who do you like in the men's long jump? Who do you like in the women's long jump to win the gold in Tokyo?
Oh shoot, that's a good question for me. I want to switch it because the person that's on my mind right now, right? Who I've been following her, and in the women's long jump, I like Brittany Reese.
Okay.
I think you just never count her. You never ever count her out. So Brittany, I got to think about the men's long jump, but the one I'm thinking about right now is Miss McLaughlin.
Yes.
In the 400 hurdles. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, coached by Bobby, changes coaches, just got it done, right? And that was the most beautiful hurdle race I think I've ever seen in my life of what she ran.
Yeah, and she's so strong that last 100 meters, it affects everybody else, but it doesn't seem to affect her.
No.
But she made some changes. She ran fast enough to break the world record 2 years ago. But it's amazing. That wasn't good enough for her. So she, upgrades to Bobby Kersey, and where he continues to coach athletes. So it's going to be fun to watch her.
Yeah.
But she's going to get some great competition too. A couple of Europeans have run in the 52 seconds. So there's going to be competition.
What do you think about so I think the kid the high jump doubler from
Javon Harrison.
Javon Harrison, yeah.
Yep.
I really like him. I think he's one of those. He's still kind of this sleeper kid that is he really going to do it? Can he really do this? I think people still have that in their mind about him, right? Can he do this amazing double that hasn't been done like in 80 years or something? I think that kid is just lights out fantastic.
Yeah, he really is good. I think he's a better high jumper than a long jumper. And I'm afraid that the 2 events he may not win the gold in the high jump because he's doing 2 events.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see him jump because what I've seen from him though is he can go out and he can qualify at 9 a.m. All All right. And he
He's a
steps up.
Conley, man.
Oh man. And you know how you go to international competition, all of a sudden they change the time, they change the time of your competition. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. It's like, that's the worst jump of my season. So, but I think he's one of those guys who always is a competitor. I mean, he answered the call time and time again at the SEC and the NCAA championships and the high jump. But he's fun, he's exciting, and he's very personable.
Yeah, I love to chat with him. I mean, the thing I like, I think that what the other piece I like about him is he just doesn't know his talent. He just does it. He just goes and does it. I'm going to just get it done. And you never, well, for me, I always watch those individuals because they just are out there having fun. They're enjoying it. They got their headphones on, whatever, bouncing around, playing their little video games. Time to jump. Boop, got my jump. Back to the headphones.
He's too young to kind of feel the pressure.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's why I say he's for me, he's a sleeper.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good choice.
But awesome. So it's so wonderful to see you, to talk to you. I can't wait. I think I have a speech coming out in Arizona, so I'd love to connect with you.
Please do. I'm here, and usually I'm traveling all around, but I'm home for a while, just trying to, we got 6 months more construction, but I am just firmly here in AZ. If you get to town, give me a call.
I will definitely do that because I got some more thoughts and ideas.
Okay. All right.
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks, Dan, for being on. I'll wrap the show up right now, but I really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
John, thank you for all that you do. You continue to be an inspiration, even when you forget the last part of that poem, right?
Right. God, lights out. That was hilarious. Wow, crash and burn. Oh, it wasn't the last part. It was like the entire three.
All right.
That's funny. All right, everybody. We've been on with the amazing gold medal. We didn't even talk about that, did we? You came back and won gold in '96 in Atlanta. So
I did. I mentioned it briefly, but
okay.
The bigger story was the fail, right?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure that we talk about the mind sight. That's always focusing on the next thing and not getting stuck in that past rut. So if we have a major fail, that's gone. Let's not think about that. Let's focus on the mind sight of where we can actually go with our lives, because we still have more life to live. We can't live back there. So thank you for sharing that, and hail to the gold medalist, the one and only Dan Obrien. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, John.
All right, see you later, man.
All right.
So that is the guy. He's the one and only Dan Obrien. Remember that you all are the inspirations. Inspirations are the catalyst to motivation. Motivation in turn causes actions. Action leads to transformation results. And those results, they re-inspire us or allow other people that are watching the process to catch the vision. If you've been enjoying these shows and the podcasts we're going to be putting on a little bit later, please share them with your friends, because we want you and them to hear these. Like I say in my old school days, rewind the tape, push the 8-track forward, whatever you got to do. You need to hear this again. Dan gave some great information and insights. So Anais Nin said this: and the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. I charge you now to go forth and inspire your world. Why? Because go is your command. Forth is your direction. Inspire is your vocation. That's what we do. It's only your world. You're personal to you. You are responsible for what you do. And world, your sphere of influence. Go forth, inspire your world, everybody. We'll see you back here next week on what's my show called? Hurdles University, Conversation with Mindsight Warriors. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.